morning, Fiber friends. I am Becca from Fiber and Floral, and this is my knitting podcast. So like I said, I'm Becca. I am a knitter, sewist, occasional embroiderist, amateur quilter, multi-crafter. I am just so glad you're here. I'm so excited to get to talk about today's episode. I'm going to be sharing about a wool festival that I recently went to and getting to meet all the knitting friends, which if you've watched my first episode, I really value creative community, and so just getting to meet other knitters in Berlin just brings me so much joy. And then I'm going to be talking about my experience knitting with 100% linen yarn, which seems to be a really trendy topic right now, given that, I mean, it's summer, but I see a lot of linen wool, like a lot of linen blends, but knitting with 100% linen is a whole nother experience, and I'm really excited to share with you what it was like. So let's dive in. As always, I'm going to start with what I'm wearing. Two finished objects actually today. So the first is my Jenny jacket, which I have shared about on the podcast. Excuse me, Jenny jacket V-neck by Petite Knit. I knit it in, where is it? In Drops Nepal, which is a worsted weight alpaca yarn. It is so warm. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to wear this. It's only 18 degrees outside right now, but I am absolutely sweating in this, but it's just, I'm so happy with how it turned out. So I had the Drops Nepal in my stash. I had planned it for another project and it didn't meet gauge. So it's just been sitting there, and I wanted to go ahead and use it up because I knew I was going to be buying quite a bit of yarn at Wedding Wool Weekend. So I decided on the Jenny jacket. I really wanted something textured, and originally I had thought that the Jenny jacket might be a little too much, but actually it's very simple. It's just 2x2 rib the entire way, and then every 6th row you do a smock stitch. So very easy effort, very high reward, was just what I was looking for, and it just, it's so squishy and lovely. And I think my only regret is that I didn't make it sooner and that I finished it in summer when it is too hot to wear. I have tried wearing this multiple mornings while biking to work, and I last about 5 minutes. Even if it's like 10 degrees outside at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's just, it's too warm. But come fall, this is going to be absolutely perfect. So my biggest issue with this from the beginning was that I did my gauge swatch and it ended up an inch too big. So out of a 4-inch gauge swatch, it was actually 5 inches. So I'm normally a medium large in petite knit sizing, and I just took a guess and knit the extra small and hope that it worked out. And as you can see, I got very lucky. It fits absolutely perfectly. I'll post a little video so you can see how it fits, but I got, like I said, very lucky. One note, one thing I wanted to mention, and I was messaging my friend Bianca, who is also knitting the sweater, and she finished hers about a week or two before I did, and I was debating like how long to make the sleeves, and she was like, oh, the sleeves grow so much. And so I knit mine probably to just a little before the wrist and just hoped they grew, but it grew even more. So it grew probably 8 inches. So actually they're a little too long, but I think it kind of fits the vibe of the sweater, kind of the oversized grandpa vibes. So when you knit your sleeves, if you plan on knitting this jacket, it will grow even more than you think. The other thing to note is that when you knit it, once you block it, it actually, the body will shorten just a tad. Now, I knit mine, and Petite Knit mentions this in her pattern. Now, I've knit mine with alpaca, which is really drapey, and I've noticed that when I knit with alpaca, my sweaters really drop a lot, like almost as much as when I knit with cotton. So mine actually didn't shorten that much. I think it stayed around the same. But I'm really happy with the length. It's about lower hip. And now, yeah, I also did so it has a double knitted button band, which is just fits the amount of fluff. It's absolutely perfect. And then I did this little hack that I've seen a lot on Instagram where you attach a smaller button to behind the bigger top button so that it doesn't stress the button band as much. And I think it's working. I think I sewed the buttons on a little too tight. And I probably need to go back and sew them a little bit looser because they're kind of a struggle to actually put them in. The buttonhole, as you can see, it's a little too tight, but I actually don't know how much I plan on buttoning this. Like, it's so warm even open, so we'll see when winter comes. I'm gonna leave it for right now, but I'm really pleased with how this turned out. It's just stunning. Took me almost 2 months to knit. It just takes so long with the 2x2 ribbing, but absolutely stunning. I'm so glad that I knit this. It is everything I wanted, and yeah, just so pleased. My second garment, and I'm going to take this off so you can see it, is the Tip Top Tank by Emily Bouldan, maybe? It is a free pattern on Ravelry, just a sweet little tank top. I knit this in 100% linen. So this is I actually don't think I have any skeins left. Where is it? Oh, it's up here. So I got 4 skeins of Lena Muka, and I probably have about half a skein left. So I used about 3.5 skeins, including my gauge swatch. So, and I knit the size medium large. And I did make a few modifications. So this was a top. Originally, it's a bottom up sweater, or bottom up top. However, I wasn't sure if I would have enough yarn to actually complete the project, so I actually modified it to be top down, which I think a lot of people prefer anyways. So I wanted to explain quickly how I could do this, and as always, I'll link to my Ravelry below if you are better with words like I am and need to see it written out. So what I did was I started at the shoulder seam and I cast on 14 stitches. Like I said, this is a free pattern, so I don't feel bad explaining what I did. I would not typically do this for a paid pattern, but because it is free, I feel okay doing this. So I cast on 14 stitches, I knit, and then I knit just straight stockinette for 5 centimeters. That was what my row gauge was suggesting. I did have to knit the bodice a couple times to get the right amount. So for me, the right amount was 5 centimeters with my row gauge. And so 5 centimeters, and then I started my increases. So in the pattern, when you're shaping this part, you decrease every other row, or every right side row, you decrease on both sides. So instead of decreasing, of course, I increased every right side row, one on each side. And then I just kept doing that until I got to the right number. And then broke my yarn, started this side, 5 centimeters, did the same exact thing. And then in the back, I did actually add some, I guess you could call it short row shaping or back shaping, if you will. There were no short rows involved, so just back shaping. I did do 7.5 centimeters on the back, and I have very rounded shoulders. I know this from sewing, so I typically do add an extra centimeter or 2 to my back shoulder piece. So if you don't have rounded shoulders, I think you can see my shoulders. Yeah, if you're a sewist. I really feel like the sewing community talks a lot more about altering patterns to fit your body, and this is really helpful, especially with knitting. So it's something I've brought into knitting, is knowing what I need to change to fit patterns to my body, and extra back shaping is always something that I need. So I knit 7.5 centimeters of the strap in the back, and then started my back row shaping. And yeah, it was perfect. I would absolutely do this again. I love everything I did with this tank top. The only other modification, so I knit all 4 pieces, doing the increases instead of decreases until I got to the set number. I can't remember what that is, but it's in the pattern, of course. And then I knit them all together. I just kept knitting around. Very easy modification. I was so nervous about it, and I held off knitting this for so long because I wasn't sure. I've never modified a pattern before in knitting like this, but it was so easy once I did it. And I did find there were a few other patterns that I had bought that was a top down. I think Simone from West Knitwear has a top-down sweater similar to this, but it's a Aran weight gauge. I just looked at that and kind of made sure I was doing the right thing, and it was a very easy modification actually. And then at the end, I always like a little bit of detail, even like a simple stockinette piece. I feel like I just can't knit just a boring stockinette piece, and so I found another free pattern, and it was just called a scallop edge, and it is made for top down stockinette, and it's just a simple little lace detail to add a scalloped edge, and it turned out so well. The entire time I was knitting it, I was so worried that it was not going to end up well, and I was just like, oh, I'm gonna have to rip all this out, this is such a waste of time. But yeah, I was so happy with it. I think it turned out stunning and just adds a little piece of a little eye-catching detail. And so I've typically been tucking in the little front part, and it just, I'm so happy I did that. That is a free pattern, or like a pattern, it's a 10 row repeat every 10 stitches. Very easy. I'll also link to that in on my Ravelry if you're interested. It was very easy. I would highly recommend it, especially for the linen yarn. It worked great. If you're interested in knitting this, she has the Tip Top tank comes in a sport weight and also a fingering weight version. I knit the sport weight, but because Lina Muka is a light fingering, I don't know if you can see that, it is very, very light. It is almost like an embroidery thread. So I held this triple to make gauge, and it turned out amazingly well. I don't know if you can see, but it is just the right amount of, I actually need to block this and it'll shrink again. I've probably worn this a lot, 6 or 7 times by this point. So it does need a nice little wash to shrink back up, but I'll talk about the shrinking later. But it, like, I can wear a black bra underneath or a colored bra and it doesn't show through. It just has this nice fabric. It's very drapey, and yeah, I'm really happy with this. It was so fast. I kind of impulse cast this on. I had planned to wear my Jenny jacket to the wool festival, and then about a week out, I realized that it was going to be 27 degrees and I was not going to be able to wear a jacket. So I panic cast this on and even took it to work and knit at work way too much probably. I'm surprised I didn't get in trouble. Yeah. And it was finished in like 4 or 5 days, like ridiculously quick knit. I wouldn't call myself a quick knitter, but this could easily be whipped up before vacation. There's plenty of time to knit this. So yeah, highly recommend Tip Top Tank, a lovely free pattern. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what it was like working with 100% yarn, because like I mentioned in my intro, you see a lot of linen blends around this time of year. I even bought some recently. However, you don't see a lot of 100% linen yarn, and I really, really love this. So this is called Lina Muka. It is a linen yarn produced by Volan, which is my local yarn store here in Berlin. It's one of the few yarns that they produce, but it comes in like 80, oh goodness, 80, 90 colors. If you have a color you're looking for, they have it. This is the color Pink Shadow. It's just an absolutely stunning lilac, which sadly I don't think they make anymore. I looked online recently and I couldn't find the color, and I'm quite sad because a lot of people liked it when I wore it to the wool festival, and yeah, I don't know, I'll have to check again. But Pink Shadow, absolutely like the perfect lilac. I'm really happy with it. So there are a few differences in the way that linen yarn knits up that I kind of wanted to talk about, because it's just a perfect yarn for summer. I was chatting with a woman who's also knit with it, and she said that she's worn her linen tops in 30-degree weather, which is like 90, 95 Fahrenheit, and has no problem. And that's not something you can say about a lot of summer knits, is that they can hold up to really high heat and your body can handle it. And yeah, I can agree. I wore this at the wool festival when it was like 27 degrees. We were sitting inside with no air conditioning, and I had no problems. It's very breathable, very light, very flowy. This is the perfect summer yarn if you live in a hot climate, in my opinion. 100% linen is absolutely the way to go. But there are some quirks about it that I wanted to talk about real fast. So this is my first time knitting with linen, or even like a linen blend, first time ever working with it. And so I did a lot of research beforehand, and I'm gonna link to a very helpful blog post by, oh goodness, what is her name? Emily Smith Knits. She has a very, very helpful blog post that I referenced. And she also has some really lovely patterns if you're interested in knitting with linen that are specifically made for linen yarns. And so I'd give that a look. I'll link it below. The first thing I wanted to mention is that when you first work with linen, it has a almost straw-like feel to it. And it doesn't feel like something you would want to wear. However, I went to Woolens Yarn Festival last year, and all of their staff were wearing garments with linen. And one of them let me touch it and really explain, like, yeah, the more you wear your linen garment, the more it's going to soften. And I know this is true from also sewing with linen, that linen dresses, when I first sew them, can be really stiff, but then the more I wear them, they just soften up and the drape gets so lovely. And once you block it specifically, it's going to soften a lot. So don't worry if you're knitting it up and you're like, oh, this does not feel good, I can't believe I'm gonna wear this on my body. It's going to soften a lot after blocking. And like I said, the more you wear it, even having only worn it 6 or 7 times, it's only getting drapier and nicer to wear. So rest assured. Another interesting quirk about linen is that it actually tightens after blocking, which when I read this, I was like, no, this is not true. This makes no sense. I've never heard of a fiber that tightens after blocking, but I did my gauge swatch and it is absolutely true. And even after blocking this, it tightened. I was really worried when I was knitting this that I'd actually made a size too large. I'll post a picture here. It just seemed really big on me, but once I blocked it, it shrunk. The fibers really tightened, and it went from a little bit see-through to absolutely not see-through. And yeah, I'm so glad I made the size. It probably has about 10 to 15 centimeters of positive ease, and it is absolutely perfect. So strange thing about linen, so definitely do a gauge swatch and see how much your fabric shrinks. I don't think this applies, from what I was reading, this only applies to 100% linen yarn. It doesn't apply to linen blends. So, but something very interesting I didn't expect. The third thing, which is maybe quite obvious, linen yarn is not stretchy at all. So unlike this alpaca Nepal, which even if I'm just holding a strand of it, it has a little give to it. Linen yarn has absolutely no give to it, none at all. I mean, the stockinette stitch in of itself is stretchy. However, one thing you want to stay away from with 100% linen yarn is like any kind of like negative ease projects or ribbing. I read from multiple places, ribbing is absolutely something you want to stay as far away from as possible, which is another reason I modified this pattern. It does in the original pattern have a ribbed edge, and I knew that wasn't going to work for this linen yarn. So but on a similar note, it doesn't fold or twist at all. So you really don't need to worry about edges. Like I could have just done a simple bind off, and when I blocked it, it would have laid flat. Or I did do like a very mini I-cord edge, but I didn't need to. I could have just done a slip stitch and it lays completely flat. Like I haven't blocked this at all. I still have a stitch marker so I can tell which way is the front and back. I need to sew in a label, but I haven't blocked this at all since my first block. I've worn it, like I said, 6 or 7 times, and it's just laying completely flat. Not a problem with folding in. So just this yarn is so interesting. So you really don't have to worry about edging, but stay away from ribbing, and you do want to pick a pattern with lots of ease. So once again, I can recommend the Tip Top Tank. There's lots of patterns that I was seeing on Ravelry that are designed for linen yarn, and they all have lots of positive ease. They all have simple designs. That's another thing you want to look for, is simple lace projects. Like this is a simple lace, or the Amadeo blouse from Johanna by Colibri is a blouse that I test knit last summer. That has a very simple lace pattern that would be great for linen yarn. I almost knit with Lino Muka last year for that project, but I chose Knitting for Olive Pure Silk instead. But this would be a great yarn for a simple lace like that, or just something simple and stockinette with lots of ease. But you don't want to do like cables or ribbing or anything like that, like you want to stay away from. And then the last thing I wanted to note with working with linen is you want to block it heavily, because when you're knitting it up, the edge does fold, and when I knit it, just like the stitches weren't even. That's one thing. It's really hard to keep a consistent gauge with linen from what I read, and I definitely saw that to be true. And then this at the bottom, just, it wasn't pretty at all, and you can see it's kind of even folding up a little bit now. It still looks nice, but it definitely looked prettier after I blocked it. And so you want to block it really heavily. Definitely use a blocking mat if you have it. And then I used probably 60 to 70 pins blocking this. Anywhere that needed shaping, like I shaped the neckline exactly how I wanted it. I placed it. I'll post a picture to the side here. And then when I was blocking the sides, I put the pins exactly along the sides where I wanted. I think this created a nice shape. And then at the bottom, when I was knitting, or when I was blocking the scalloped edge, I put at the bottom of every scallop, I put a pin, and at the top of every scallop, I put a pin. So use lots of pins when blocking your linen yarn, and it will come out exactly like you want it. This is a yarn that really responds to blocking well. So you definitely want to take time to position it on your blocking mat and use pins to get the exact shape that you want, and then it's going to hold that shape beautifully. So those are all the things that I learned when working with linen yarn. I'm really interested if you have any patterns that you could suggest. This is a yarn that I definitely will knit with next summer. And maybe even the same pattern. I absolutely love it. But I could also see like a really lovely sleeve cover up. The woman I mentioned, Emily Smith Knits, has a lovely little linen cardigan that I think would be really nice for next summer. Or maybe the Eden wrap cardigan, which is, oh no, that has brioche though. So see, nah, yeah. But I would love a little like thing to throw on over spaghetti strap dresses for next summer. So maybe it's definitely something I would knit with again. I really enjoy wearing this, and it's just so soft and cool, and yeah, I think it's perfect for summer. There's my spiel on linen yarn. I hope you found it interesting. So I'm gonna move on to talking about vetting wool weekend, because I had the absolute best time. This is my second time going. Last year I went with my friend Angie from My Dear Pulpit. I'll post a picture to the side. But this year I went alone, so to speak, which is kind of scary. But I went to the festival with my internet friend Emily from Emily Kate Made This. She's also a podcaster, and I found her online, I don't even know how, and we began chatting a few weeks ago, and so we went together and did our shopping. We chatted a lot about sock knitting, because she's a way better sock knitter than I am, and as you know, that's something I'm getting into. She gave me a lot of tips for colorwork socks, which is something that I'll be starting soon. But so yeah, it was really nice to meet her in real life. I also got to meet two women that I test knit the Brighton beanie for, and they also live like around Berlin, Kira and Johanna, and they were kind of in this like little knitting group that I just walked up to and was like, oh hey, I know you from online. And then they were actually sitting in a Berlin knit group, which I had been looking for one, hadn't been able to find one, and so I sat down with them, pulled out my project bag, and was like, hey, can I sit with you guys? Let's just chat. And it was really nice. That's not something that I don't normally go up to groups of people that I don't know and knit and like ask to sit with on a regular basis, but they were just so lovely, and I got to see some of Angie's designs in real life. Kira and Johanna had knit them for their kids, which are running around. It was so lovely to see like one of my really good friends' patterns on an internet friend that I was like sitting next to and knitting. It was just like a really lovely moment. And then Marlene from Marlene Knits was also there, and Lydia from Lydia Rhabarber, who are two other podcasters that I follow and have participated in some of their knit-alongs, and we were just all sitting around chatting, and it was just really lovely. I probably sat with them for 2 or 3 hours, and they ended up going to dinner and invited me along, and I went to dinner with them, and we got pizza and just kept knitting and chatting, and it was really lovely. Like I said, I've been looking for a knitting group in Berlin, and these women they said there's probably 30 of them altogether that meet once a month and just knit. And so I think I'm going to join them, and it was just really lovely. They were so welcoming, so kind. I got to practice my German, And yeah, I'm really happy that it got to happen. It was just absolutely a dream come true to get to meet so many knitting friends in real life and sit around and chat and knit with them and see all their projects. So Vetting Wool Weekend is a local yarn festival put on by my favorite local yarn shop, Woolen. It is a 3-day festival. So there's a Thursday night knit night, and then Friday and Saturday there's like a marketplace where they've invited small local hand dyers or hand spinners from all over Germany. I think there was maybe one from Belgium as well, but mostly German, small independent companies such as Rauwerk or Wollentwine. A couple other famous, or I guess like locally famous yarn brands, some smaller ones who maybe they can't keep in the shop, but it's a good opportunity to meet these yarn dyers in person and just feel their yarns and touch them before buying them. So it's a really great experience for us in Germany who we have these local dyers we want to support, but maybe it's important to us to see the yarns in person before we buy. I know that's something important for me, especially with colorways and just like getting a feel for what the yarn feels like. And so it's a great opportunity to really just get to know local companies and support local businesses, and yeah, get to meet the faces behind the companies in real life. And then they also have some workshops. This year, one of the biggest workshops was embroidery on knitwear, which I thought was super interesting. I'm really interested in the topic. I didn't take the workshop, but it's maybe something in the future that I would be interested in exploring. And then just in the Hof, which is like this outdoor area, you can just sit and knit. They have like pizza and coffee and cake, and you just sit around and knit like I did all day and meet other knitters and shop in their storefront. It's a lovely little yarn festival. I didn't take any pictures, or I didn't take many pictures and videos. I did last year, and so I'll post the reel that I did last year because I was just so in the moment, and frankly, I was so out of my comfort zone in a good way from meeting new people and interacting that I just really wanted to be in the moment and focus on socializing and not taking videos. But I'll post what I did last year. It is definitely a smaller yarn festival, which is really great for me. I felt like it's really manageable. I would have been overwhelmed with more, but there's such a selection, and it's just lovely. If you're in Germany or the local surrounding countries, I would really recommend it. It's just a really lovely community atmosphere, and that's ultimately why I love Berlin. I think Berlin has just such a special artist culture here that's so welcoming, and especially like with this knit group. I think Germans kind of are stereotypically unfriendly, but that's just not true. Especially in Berlin, I find the artist community is one of the most supportive and welcoming communities I've ever been a part of. I've noticed that with writing as well. When I moved here almost 10 years ago, I got involved with a group of female writers. I've mentioned them on the podcast before, and I was a baby writer. I still feel like a baby writer compared to them, but they have been so welcoming and teaching me and just welcoming into my community, and I just think that's something. So I've heard that. I have friends who are painters and friends who are sculptors here or graphic designers, and they all say that about the Berlin artist community, that it's just so welcoming. I think the artist community can be known for being competitive, and that's just not the case in Berlin. And so with the Wool Weekend, with the Vetting Wool Weekend, once again, just so welcoming, so lovely, so there to help. I think that's just, something so special about the Berlin environment that is also a part of this yarn weekend, or this wool festival. So there's my spiel on what the wool festival is. So if you've watched the podcast before, I can be a planner. Specifically, I just love planning projects, and probably almost more than making the projects. That's definitely the way in my writing. I tend to like planning my novel more than writing my novel. So I had a list going in, and I wanted to compare that to what I actually bought. So first thing on my list was sock yarn for my husband. I actually decided not to get him sock yarn. There was nothing that really spoke to me. I'm looking for like a variegated green is what he's requested. He wants a really nice pair of ribbed socks in variegated green yarn. And then nothing really spoke to me. We're also going to Copenhagen for our summer vacation, and so I figured I'd leave something on my list to see if I can find it in Copenhagen. Or we're also going to the States in October, and there's a couple shops in Baltimore where his family's from that I really love. And so I will get him sock yarn before his birthday, but I'm gonna wait. There's nothing that really spoke to me. Number 2 on my list was sock yarn for me. I actually did get sock yarn for me, but nothing really special. I got some Arveda by Ficolana, just in these colors. It's in, it doesn't have the name actually, just color 236, which is a really nice purple, and color 146. And then I already had this tweed sock yarn. One of the things on my list this summer is I want to knit the Blooming Lavender socks by Stoll Knits, my first colorwork sock. And in her sample, she has like a tweedy-ish, and then like a tweedy-ish main color with purple and green as her contrast colors, and I thought that was a really nice combination, and so that's what I'm going to use these 3 sock yarns together. I think it'll be a really nice contrast and be really perfect for the Bloomin' Lavender. So the next thing on my list was Rainbow Over Berlin by Keats Guide. Keats is like the Berlin dialect for neighborhood, so neighborhood yarn is how that translates. Nora is, I believe she used to work for Volan. I'm not sure if she does anymore, but she is a local yarn dyer in Berlin. I've never bought from her, but I've been wanting to for years now, and she released this colorway maybe a month ago, and I think it's sold out like within 12 hours every single time. It's got to be like her most popular colorway, even though it's only been out maybe 6 weeks at this point. But it is just stunning. She did a gauge swatch, and I just fell in love. My daughter, my 4-year-old, is really in a unicorn phase, which I guess what 4-year-old isn't in a unicorn phase? What person isn't in a unicorn phase? And I just felt like this had such strong unicorn vibes. And so that was one of the things I want to knit her. The Brighton Beanie. The Brighton Beanie by My Dear Puppet is a fingering weight beanie, which is going to be a slog, but so worth it. I tested this beanie for my youngest, and it's just, it's the perfect like fall, and the perfect fall beanie, especially to wear under helmets. We bike to school and Kita every day, so it'll just be really stunning. And I struggle to get my daughter to wear hats in the winter, even if it's like -degrees outside. She refuses to wear hats, so I'm hoping that a nice little unicorn hat will be really great for her. Like, look at, it's so nice. She also had this in fingering weight alpaca, and it was just, I just sat there for like 5 minutes, was like, I don't need this, but I want it, and just feeling it, and it was lovely. So Rainbow Over Berlin, something I'm really excited to knit with. 4th thing on my list was Progress Keepers. I found the cutest sheep Progress Keepers from Making Stories, and they ran out by the time I got there. It's little white and black sheep. But I went on the 2nd day, and they said they sold out within like an hour on the 1st day. So, but they are also a Berlin company. I didn't realize that. And they have the cutest like sheep tea towels, and I'm really obsessed with them now. So I followed them, and I'm gonna just email them. They said to email them and like ask to like let me know when there's new releases. And so yeah, I'm on their newsletter, and so the next time they release these sheep Progress Keepers, which given how fast they sold out, I think this needs to be like a major priority for them. But yeah, I'm planning on purchasing those just basically as soon as they come out. So I found the Progress Keepers that I want. I've been looking for like a nice set of Progress Keepers for, goodness, a year or two now, just like waiting for the right ones. These are them. I found them. I just need to wait for them to release another set. And then what else was there? The book club cardigan. I really wanted to cast it on this summer. It is just, it's gonna be like, the next thing on my list was yarn for the book club cardigan, and unfortunately I didn't get anything. I think I went in with a good mindset to this festival. I'm gonna wait. I don't want to impulse buy. Also, the yarn is just so expensive. It's a high cost to impulse buy, but I really want to be aware of what I want and the exact yarn that I'm looking for, and I'm willing to wait to buy that yarn. And so, especially with the book club cardigan, I just really saw it as like a tweedy cream worsted weight yarn. And I know that I just knit a cream worsted weight, but tweed is different than like just cream. right? I could say that. We're all knitters. So we all know the difference between a plain cream worsted yarn and a tweed cream worsted yarn, right? Um, and I really considered, I tried to talk myself into other colors, but I just knew ultimately I wouldn't be happy unless I knit it in like a tweed cream and really followed the vision that I see in my head. So I didn't see any tweed yarns there, which just might be because it's all hand tied, but I ultimately did not buy any yarn. I even considered buying like a sport weight yarn and holding it with a mohair, but ultimately I decided to wait. There are a few yarns that I'm looking into that I could maybe purchase online or in Copenhagen. There's a yarn from Knit Picks, which is an American company in the States. I think it's called Wool of the Andes Tweed. And like I said, we're visiting the States, so I might even just wait until October and purchase that yarn from Knit Picks and get it sent to my mother-in-law's house. We'll see, but I'm willing to hold out for the right yarn. I really want this. This is going to be a very intensive project. It is worth the wait on the right yarn. So unfortunately, I didn't get club yarn for the book club cardigan. Maybe I continue to look in Copenhagen. Maybe I also discovered there's a whole nother yarn store in Berlin that I'd never heard of called Yarn Over Berlin. I don't know how this has slipped my notice. Maybe I just got so focused into a Volan's my yarn shop, that I didn't realize there's other yarn stores in Berlin. So I want to, and like I said, Berlin, there's no competition. So Volan actually did they released a map of other yarn stores in Berlin, like so loving, so kind, love Berlin culture. And so discovered a whole new yarn store that does knit nights as well. So maybe that's something I check out, see what kind of yarn they have. We'll see, but I'm going to wait until I find that right yarn. So unfortunately, I did not get yarn for the book club cardigan. And then the last thing on my list was yarn for my daughter's Christmas sweater. I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I'm going to be knitting matching Christmas sweaters for me and my family this year, so it's a huge project. And when I'm doing such a huge project like this, I tend to break it up. I know this from writing my novel as well, which is a huge project. I give myself smaller deadlines. So my first deadline is to have my youngest daughter's sweater finished hopefully by the end of June, if not mid-July. So I bought yarn for that. For her sweater, I'm going to be using the Knitting for Olive Holly sweater. And then I also am using, naturally, Knitting for Olive yarn. So these are the yarn colors I got. And I got Putty in merino, and then I am holding it with marzipan mohair. Forgot that word. I think what I'm envisioning is like different colors of cream, and so what I'm thinking is I get a different merino every time and then hold it together all with merino. And so I'm thinking like maybe oatmeal for my daughters, and then maybe like cream, or maybe even marzipan for me. I want to see the colors. I feel like cream is just such a color you want to see in person before making that decision. So I'm going to go back to Volan soon to get my daughter's color. I'll look and see what colors of cream or like a light beige are around and then make my decision. But I'm thinking that to kind of draw all those colors together, I'll use marzipan mohair for all of them, and then just a slight variation in the merino. Anyways, tangent. And then I got bottle green. I don't know if you can see that well. Bottle green, and then dusty sea green for the mohair, and then robin for the merino, and colorette for the mohair. And this is just like my bedside yarn box, but I realized it looks so nice in there. And I actually did start it, so I'm slowly transitioning into like showing you my yarn and then my whips. I started it. It has been a slog. Like, you get to the middle of the holly and it took me maybe an hour for each of these, for like a single row. I was like doing this yesterday. It was just like, I just gotta get through it. And then I got through holding 3 strands together. Like I said, this is only my 3rd colorwork project. So holding 3 yarns and doing bobbles was maybe too much of a challenge. I really was regretting my decision, but now that it's done, it's just turning out so well. And now that I'm back to two color work, it's not so bad, and I can do a row in like 10 minutes. I'm almost done. I'm on the second to last row of color work, and then this is going to become my easy stockinette project, and I'm so ready to get back to easy stockinette. I was talking with Emily about this at the wedding wool weekend, that she says that she hates just simple stockinette projects, and I'm someone who likes to mix it up. Like, I definitely like to have something like I'm just ready to fly and I want to just go and not think. I love to have a project like that, and I miss it. I'm ready to have it back. So I'm hoping to finish the color work today and just get to simple stockinette. I'll cast off the sleeves and just go. I am excited, but it's turned out really well, and I think I held my floats. Like, I had to catch my floats, which is also I'm very new with, but it turned out really well. I'm using my knitting finger, which I really like. I talked about this on my color work episode. If you're interested in hear my thoughts on that, go watch it. I really love the knitting finger, and it's especially helpful for catching floats. There's a video that you can watch, I'll link to, that shows you how to catch floats with a knitting finger, and it is gold. Absolutely love it. So, really excited. I think I'm going to, it'll depend how fast the body goes, but the sweater only takes 2 balls of merino and mohair, so I think I will be done by the end of June with this sweater, and then I'll do my daughter's in July. So we are flying to the States in mid-October to visit our families for the first time in 2 years. My youngest daughter has never been to the United States, and she'll be a year and a half when she goes. So my goal is to have all 4 sweaters finished by then, so when we come back in early November, they're done and ready to be worn for the Christmas season. We'll see if that happens. I'm holding all my plans loosely. If I have to take 1 sweater and finish it in the States, that's fine. But I really don't want to take a sweater on an airplane. So this is my first whip. And then the surprise, I did buy 1 surprise, and that is from Wool and Twine, and another podcaster, a yarn dyer out of Hamburg, who I watch her podcast. I kind of had an idea of, like, if I feel drawn to a yarn, I'm going to see it in person, I don't mind buying this. So I already had it in mind that this was going to be like my surprise yarn, so to say. So I got her linen DK. So it is a linen wool blend. So it's 25% linen, 75% Leicester. I don't know how to say that word. Wool. And it's just like, look at that. People always hold their hand in front of their face if they're showing yarn. That's what you're supposed to do, right? It is just a stunning. So it is in the color mulberry, and she actually said this was her favorite color. So I was drawn to it as well. It's just stunning. Like, I think the small variation in color comes from the way that linen takes the dye as opposed to the way the wool takes the dye, and I'm absolutely obsessed with this yarn. I got 1 skein, and I think it's going to be Sorry Nordland just released, is it called the Poet Shawl, or like the Poet Scarf mini shawl, I think is what she calls it. Is it called the Poet? It's like a little leaf lace pattern, and it calls for 225 meters of yarn, and this is 230. So I think I'm going to knit that shawl. She apparently is doing like a mini shawl knit along where you have to knit 3 of her mini shawl patterns this whole summer, and I was already planning on knitting the turtle dove shawl, and then I'm knitting this, so I'll see what the 3rd shawl pattern is, or the other 2 shawl patterns are, and see if I'm interested in that. But I think I wouldn't mind casting this on soon. I think it's a cute, like I said, I love knit-alongs. I love knitting with other people. Someone is getting their party on. I apologize for that. Maybe I'll shut my windows. I don't know if you could hear. Berlin, party in the middle of the day. Anyways, so this is my surprise yarn. I'm so excited about it. It is absolutely stunning, and it's all plant-dyed fiber, and yeah, love it, and love that I got to meet her and yeah, talk with her about linen yarn, and yeah, just so nice. And then my other surprise purchase, like I mentioned, was Lena from Sandus Garn. It was really popular around the knitting circle, and so I figured I would give it a try. And so I am knitting the this is a very scattered way of talking. The project that I took to the wool weekend to just like sit around and knit was the Provence top, because it is completely, it's a bottom up top, and it is completely stockinette for 26 centimeters. So you do the ribbing and just 26 meters of stockinette. And so that's always good for me. It's on 4mm needles. And so I don't even need to look when I do that. I just can sit there and talk. And so I knew it would be a good project to take with me. So I went ahead and cast on the ribbing right before the festival. And then I got done probably 15 centimeters of the body, maybe even more, that day. And so then I was basically able to come home, and I separated for the front and the back, and I've started on the lace pattern. And I'm holding this together with, I don't have a very good way of showing you. It's just like a recycled cotton that I bought in a yarn store in Munich. And then I'm holding it together with, this is like a sport weight yarn, and the Provence top calls for DK to worsted. And so I'm holding it together with another yarn. It's like a light fingering. It's called Coast from Holzgarn. It's like a German yarn company that Volin recommended. And so yeah, I just already had it. I had planned to hold it together with Lena Muka, but changed my mind and decided to go for 100% linen. And so I had it, and I think it turned out, I think it's just a lovely colorway. I think there's enough like interest in the yarn, but like when you're holding it far away, it looks like a solid color, and I think it'll just show the lace really beautifully. So that's what I took, and I'm really excited. But while I was there, while I was on the way to Volin, actually that day, I realized that this would actually be a really good pattern to kind of dupe this shirt that I guess you could say I had it. I lived with my best friend in my early 20s, and we were like kind of had a sisterhood of the traveling pants moment. She's like 5'10" and very tiny, and I am 5'1", and very different body shapes. Somehow all of our clothes fitted, like pants, everything. We shared a room for maybe 2 or 3 years, and our closets were we just took from each other. So when I moved to Berlin, one of the saddest days of my life and one of the happiest all at the same time, leaving, I still miss living with her, and I miss her closet. Anyways, she had this shirt that was striped like jersey fabric at the bottom, like blue and white, and then on the top was lace. And I wore it all the time. Like I wore it to death. I'm surprised I didn't steal it when I left and just like let her deal with it. But I've always wanted to remake that, and because I think she even found it at like a thrift store. And she also only buys from thrift stores. She's very cheap, but also has like great at finding the best clothes. Loved living with her. And so I had this idea on the way that this top would actually be a good way to do that. So I'm going to do stripes on the bottom, and then just for the lace work, do white. And so once I got that, I just knew, like, I was like, I'm already knitting one Provence top, but I'm probably going to go straight into another Provence top, which I've never done in knitting, where I just finish the pattern and then immediately make another one. But I couldn't resist. I miss this top so much. Can you miss clothes? But so yeah, I got a dusty blue from Sundesgarn. They don't have colors, so I got a dusty blue from Sundesgarn. It is just beautiful. And then I just got a plain white to go with it, and I think it's going to be, I'm so excited. I can't wait to cast this on. It's gonna be great. So yeah, those are all, I think that's all that I bought. I think that's all that I bought. I was under budget. I'm so, like, way under budget. I'm so proud of myself, and I think I got a good combination of like what I wanted to knit or what I wanted to buy, and also a few surprises that I'm really happy with. But I was very lucky that like all of the surprise yarn I bought wasn't an impulse. I mean, it wasn't impulse buy, but it was something that I'm really excited, and I know that I'm going to knit with like in the next month. So I'm really happy with what I came away with. Yeah. And then really quickly, because I think I've talked way too long, I just wanted to show you guys the other two, the socks that I'm working on right now. Because I think they're so cute, and I'm really excited about them. And so just really quickly, I wanted to show you guys the socks that I've been working on. Like I said, I'm very new to sock knitting, and I finished my last pair of socks. So another goal that I had this year was to work on sock knitting. So I finished my Tinder H socks, and then I finished my, where are they? I finished my just simple vanilla socks. This is a sock that I really nailed down, like how to do the decreases. Like I mentioned with my Tinder H socks in the last podcast, I realized I've been doing it wrong. So I really nailed down how to do that. I feel really confident that I'm doing it the right way. And then I noticed that I was knitting my foot too short. So I really nailed down the length of the foot, or I get closer. I think I actually knit these a little too long, but I'm slowly getting closer to how I want my sock to fit. So I think I was probably knit these a centimeter too long, but that's not bad. Like my Tinder H socks were definitely way too short, and I'm continually having to stretch them. But this is a learning process. Perfection is not a thing. It's just progress. And then I'm getting closer to how I like the length of my sock. I think I'm going to keep making it maybe just like a centimeter longer on my next one. But this is the Zauberball from, oh goodness, Schopperwolle oder so. Sorry, that was in German. Schopperwolle or something like that. And then, so yeah, the Zauberball, I forget what color it is, but I'll link to my Ravelry below, and if you're interested. But I just really love how the color kind of changes. Like it does kind of have like lavender field vibes. Like I just love how the sock looks from behind. It's so sturdy, especially with the slip stitch on the heel. I just love how the colorway looks. I don't necessarily like how the sock looks as a whole. I don't know if I would buy a Zauberball again. Zauberball, excuse me, which is like magic ball in English. But yeah, I learned a lot about sock knitting while knitting these. So I have another pair of socks for winter. And then, so I started on the summer camp socks, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. And it's just a simple rib sock. It only comes in one size, a medium, so if you're a smaller or large, you maybe modify it. But honestly, it's pretty easy. It's just three knit stitches and a purl. This is 64 stitches, which is a pretty good fit for me. I honestly might need to go up a few stitches for my next sock. Sock fit is something that I'm really interested in at the moment after watching N.E. Knit's recent podcast, and she recommended like a book on sock fitting. So maybe I'll buy that in the future. We'll see. But I just love how this is turning out. For Mother's Day, I got a skein, 2 skeins of Olivia and Fibers. This is the Apple Blossom colorway, and then this is the Pine colorway. And I'm just like, I'm so pleased with how this is turning out. It is just stunning. Yeah, really happy with this. I just wanted to show this real fast because it just makes me so happy. It's taken quite a long time to knit because every 2 rows or every row I'll just like look at it. I'll do a row and I'll be like, oh, this is so pretty. Oh, this is so lovely. And then I'll do another row and be like, oh, this is so lovely. This is so beautiful. So it's taking quite a long time to knit, but that's okay. I'm really happy with it. Just, it makes me so happy. Anyways, I'm almost done. I should, yeah, I only have about an inch or 2 more, and then I will do the toe. And yeah, it's just so stunning. I really love it. And I think rib socks are going to be my new obsession because it's still pretty mindless actually. Like you do have to pay attention to every 4th stitch is a purl, but I think it just looks so pretty. Even in variegated yarn, it just adds like just a touch more interest. And yeah, absolutely love it. So I think that's all I have for you guys today. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but I'm just gonna leave it. I have been doing a lot of sewing in the month of May. I mean, warmer temperatures, I think, just kind of brings out my need to sew. But basically, if I were to show you everything I've sewn, it would take a whole nother hour. And there's just simply, that's too long of a podcast. So maybe I record another podcast just with sewing for the summer. We'll see. I do want to quickly show you 2 projects that I'm really proud of. That is, I'm really in like a scrappy, I have a lot of scraps that I'm trying to use this summer. And so I am really in like a challenge to myself to use my scraps. And this is the first one that I did, and I I just love it. I wore it yesterday and I just felt so cool. My husband told me that I looked like a picnic had thrown up on me. But maybe that's my vibe this summer. Who knows? I'm just so happy with it. And then the second project I briefly mentioned in my intro, after 4 years, this project is a 4-year-old WIP. I finally finished my quilt. Like, I feel like I picture rounds of applause right now. I'm so glad it's done. I really wanted to be able to use it as a picnic blanket for this summer, and so I forced myself to finish it in May, and it was actually not as hard as I thought it was going to be. I finished the quilt top maybe 2 years ago, and I've just been putting it off because I was so terrified of sandwiching it all together and sewing it, but it really wasn't that bad. Maybe I'll talk about it in my sewing episode, but it's done. It turned out beautiful. We've been using it to go on picnics to like our local zoo and to the park with friends, and like my daughter's been using it to make forts, and it just makes me really so happy that it's a part of our family's summer life. Now, yeah. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed hearing me talk about yard. That feels really weird to say, but thank you for being here. Please say hello. Like I said, I really enjoy being a part of this creative community and the fiber arts community, and I'd love to be friends. Thanks for watching, guys. Happy knitting.